All right. Filtration begins in the renal corpuscle, situated in the kidney's cortex, where an afferent arteriole comes into the capillary bed, the glomerulus, and an efferent arteriole leaves the capillary bed. That will form into peritubular capillaries. We'll talk about in a second. So the capillary bed is a very high pressure capillary bed, and the main control is hydrostatic pressure that forcefully pushes fluid and solutes from the blood plasma into the nephron at the Bowman's capsule. So the rate at which this fluid is filtered is called the glomerular filtration rate, and it's managed by hormones renin and atrial natriuretic hormone. Renin decreases the filtration rate if the body's sodium level and blood volume are too low, and that causes the renin angiotensin aldosterone cascade. And when those hormones are stimulated, they work together to limit water and sodium loss in the process of urine formation. So retaining water and sodium will increase the blood pressure and blood volume back to normal. The atrial natriuretic hormone increases the filtration rate by vasodilating the afferent arteriole and vasoconstricting the efferent arteriole that's coming into this glomerulus. That will allow more plasma fluid to enter into the nephron. So that will in turn lower the blood pressure by increasing urine formation. Okay, so the fluid collected from the blood plasma is filtrate. So that goes into the Bowman's capsule, which will become urine after a series of modifications. The modifications are that I'm talking about are secretion and reabsorption. Secretion is when ions are taken up by the nephron, so they're being absorbed into the nephron. They're secreted into the nephron. I just made that more complicated. Reabsorption is when the body reabsorbs solutes or water from the nephron into the interstitial fluid around the nephron, and that it's taken up by the peritubular capillaries and returned to the circulation. Okay, so the flow of filtrate works like this. From the Bowman's capsule, it enters the proximal convoluted tubule, and this is where most of the modification of the urine, forming urine, occurs. So chloride, sodium, and water are all reabsorbed into the interstitial fluid, along with glucose, amino acids, and vitamins. So other substances are being secreted into the nephron from the interstitial fluid, and that includes urea and ammonia and creatinine. Also, hydrogen ions and bicarbonate ions are either reabsorbed or secreted depending on the pH, because it's a balance of the pH of the body. So from the proximal convoluted tubule, it's going to go down into the descending loop of Henle, and this dips down into the medulla of the kidney. So the descending loop, it is impermeable to ions at this point, but permeable to water, very permeable to water. So water is going to flow out of the descending loop into the interstitial fluid by osmotic pressure. Then it is going to come, the forming urine is going to come up the ascending loop of the loop of Henle, and now this is the cellular structure is impermeable to water. So reabsorption of sodium chloride, and potassium are going to occur here. All right, so then it's going to go up into the distal convoluted tubule, and that is where, get rid of that. That is where some more reabsorption and secretion occurs. So urea, ammonia, creatinine, and potassium are all going to be secreted into the distal convoluted tubule, and then water and sodium and chloride are going to be reabsorbed. Okay, and then so it's going to come down here into the collecting duct. The last bit of reabsorption of water occurs here. And that is under the control of ADH, antidiuretic hormone. So in the presence of ADH, the duct becomes permeable to water, and due to the osmotic pressure in the medulla, water will flow out and be reabsorbed by the body if ADH is present. And then the urine leaves the nephron's collecting duct to empty into the renal pelvis and ureters on its way out of the body.